I'm Jammer and welcome back to another Animal Crossing New Horizons video. In the past two videos, we recapped all of the details that we could find in the Pax East footage throughout the time on the show floor in the demo, and that we have seen being shared around the internet. But you know what? It turns out there's still some things I still miss, some things you guys pointed out in the comments of those videos, and other things that have been shared around on the last day of the event. So that's what we're going to do today, wrap up the Pax East footage and go over the last remaining secrets and details worth mentioning and information that we got from the demo. But before we get started, if you are new here, you know what? Perhaps consider subscribing. It's free, you can always change your mind later, and if you like Animal Crossing New Horizons content, well, and there's sure plenty more of that to come later down the line. And for those of you that have subscribed, thank you so much for joining our community, and I cannot wait for the fun stuff we're going to come up with when the game fully releases. Alright, thanks for listening to that. With that out of the way, let's get started. The first section I'd like to talk about is in regard to patterns, including some footage we've seen from the demo at Pax East. We also, in addition to that, got a trailer showcasing some things worth talking about and mentioning in regards to patterns, pro designs, and essentially making custom clothing. The first thing to point out, in a Japanese promotional trailer, they showed a group of friends playing New Horizons together on their Nintendo Switch Lites. But the real key detail of this trailer is when they show off the pattern. First, we see a full look at the design editor itself, and it is very similar to what we've seen in series past. In the middle area is your workspace, and it brings back the return of the grid pixel-based art that you can make. But the cool thing to notice, as you see on the left side, it shows not only a preview of what the pattern looks like flat, but also shows what it looks like on an easel. So it shows the transparency versus what it would look like on an easel where transparency wouldn't be a thing. In addition to that, something we've already seen throughout is that the patterns that you can make out of these pixels are actually have some vectorization and smoothing to it, as you can see clearly here in the preview mode of the pixel design. On the top row, you'll see the color palette the player is using, and from what we see on the screen, you can probably toggle between the left and right buttons to go through your different palettes of colors to work with. On the right side, then, of course, is her selection of tools, and it's all the standard stuff we've come to know and see throughout the series. Different sizes of pencils, the paintbrush, eraser tool. The rest has kind of faded out, but it's all that we've seen before and come to know to expect from previous Animal Crossing titles. But like I mentioned at the beginning, this pattern has transparency, and as we've seen already before, that there is a confirmation that transparent patterns will be a thing. But the thing is, we've never really seen it in action. Well, that's what this trailer rectified. In this shot, the player places the pattern they were just barely making on the ground, and you can see it creates a full image with the transparency cut out around where the grass would be, in addition to the letters in the background also being transparent patterns. So it's cool to see these transparent patterns in full in gameplay, and it excites me to no end to see what the community will be able to come up with these transparent patterns. Also, I just noticed this when editing, but how did they get this shot? I mean, we've seen before the silhouette of the plane flying over as you first arrive at your island, but is this an indication that this just plays every time you boot up Animal Crossing New Horizons? Can you actually see your friends on your islands waving to you as you come in on a plane? It might have been just a scene made for the trailer, which is probably actually the case. But this is the second time we've seen this so far in the promotional materials, so it does make me wonder if maybe this camera angle will be a thing, something that does play when you first arrive at your village or when you fly in and visit another friend's island. So jumping back over to the demo, in this clip we have a player inspecting the custom designs on the back wall of the Able sisters, like what we talked about in the previous video. There's a set of 8 designs on display currently, and it looks like to be a variety of different things. First, a row of shirts, and then some hats on the top, but there's also still a dress up there as well. So it's not locked only being 4 accessories for shirts. You can probably mix and match and put as many shirts or hats as you want up on this board. The player does in fact try to swap out one of the designs for their own so then they could wear what was on the wall. And what was interesting right off the bat is it prompted the player to delete one of the custom designs to make space. But then when the player's design inventory pops up, you can clearly see there's only 10 designs in their inventory, and there's a huge selection of patterns to continue to scroll down, which is confusing at first glance. But actually, there's a big distinction between these top 10 and the following ones below. As you'll see in this later screenshot, that a more standard pattern is then shown on a bottom row. I believe the first 2 rows are reserved for pro designs. And pro designs, if you're not familiar, are designs that you can customize every single piece of the article of clothing, whether it be the front, back, and both individual sleeves of a t-shirt, making a hat, for instance. Mabel does explain this a little bit when talking about pro designs, mentioning that Some options you can make with Pro Designs are t-shirts, hoodies, dresses, coats, and even hats. She also mentions that you actually have to upgrade your Nook phone to even make the Pro Design. So potentially there's a hierarchy of upgrades here where first you get just the regular custom design creator where you can make single tile designs, and then later you can redeem Nook miles to then unlock the Pro Editor, which we've already seen before in plenty of other footage. When we had talked about character customization, the biggest question we had was the pencil icon. We really couldn't put our finger on what that would even be. And a few days later, that question was answered for us, where we figured out that the pencil icon actually let you put custom designs on your face, which a lot of you did predict, but it was still quite odd idea to even wrap our head around, like how would that even work? Well, we actually have some gameplay right here of a player having a custom design on their face. In this case, they're using the transparent paw print design that we had seen before in previous trailers and whatnot. And you can see it right here going across the player's face. So yes, it's a little odd to have these paw prints on your face, but I think the idea is what you could use this custom designs on your face for if you wanted to add a mole, perhaps freckles, or a certain kind of blush. Maybe you want to put a scar across your face. I don't know. The point is it can give you a lot more customization to the unique features on your villager's face. Kind of a quirky way to implement freckles, dimples, and other things like that. And I know players are going to go completely ridiculous with this and put the most ridiculous things on their face. So let's move on to clothing and accessories. Throughout all the footage we've ever seen, whenever the player accesses their inventory, there's always been that clothing icon at the bottom. And we actually finally see that button be clicked in action. And as we all kind of expected, it's a way to quickly go in and look at the clothing your character is currently wearing. Rather than just going through a list of remove accessory, remove shoes, remove shirt, it actually shows the icons of what's on your character. It's such a more convenient way to look at your full outfit and actually see what pieces of your outfit are equipped in certain slots. And speaking of removing shirts and removing hats, it looks like we actually do get a quick peek at what the undies look like in this game. If you do remove your shirt and other clothing in previous Animal Crossing games, it does put you in the default little tank top and shorts. And as you see in this screenshot, both a male and a female character are next to each other wearing basically an identical outfit. The little white tank top and a little pair of white shorts. There's no confirmation that these are the undies of this game, but it does kind of lead me to believe that it is, especially because both characters are both wearing that same outfit after potentially unequipping what they were previously wearing. Also, the other thing to quickly mention while on this screen is the Statue of Liberty is literally in the background there. Probably another reward that you can get from Gulliver in his travels. So we've seen a lot of clothes at the Able Sisters shop in their fitting room. There's a giant catalog of different stuff to go through. But one particular accessory worth mentioning is in fact the bubblegum accessory. We never see it previewed on the villager itself, but what it kind of looks like is it'll be an accessory where it looks like your player is blowing a bubble. So it does make me wonder, will it just be a constant bubble blown on your face as you run around? Or will it be more dynamic, where like the villager is quote unquote chewing the bubble gum and every once in a while blows a bubble, it'll stay there and then it'll pop. That would be super cool if it had some animation like that. I don't know if it's necessarily that full in detail, but that would still be kind of cool if it did something along the lines of that too. And speaking of accessories, it's worth also mentioning one quick thing about the character customizations and hairstyles, because recently on the Japanese website for New Horizons, they updated with a handful of new screenshots worth taking a look at, and the specifically one worth pointing out is when they show off a larger selection of hair colors. We've already seen the selection of natural hair colors that you'll start the game with, and we already also know that with Nook Miles, you can unlock new hair color options. But here in the screenshot, we do in fact see those hairstyle colors, being blue, a pale blue, green, aquamarine, red, orange, purple, and pink. To be honest, there isn't much room to put more colors on the screen, so this could potentially be the full selection of colors that'll be available in New Horizons. There's always room to maybe make a page 2 of colors to select from, but this potentially could be what we're working with in this game. Now knowing what other colors are available to us, I'd love to know what you guys plan to dye your hair. What color is your hair gonna be? Are you gonna make it pink, purple, blue, or are you gonna change your hair color every day of the week? Or even just change your hair color with every outfit you wear? Definitely let me know that in a comment. So let's talk about some Nook phone stuff. In a screenshot, we do see a villager passport, something that's been in past games where it's like basically a player profile card that can be shared with friends and is used for those kind of online connectivity features. So this passport has a couple of different categories on here. At the top at first, it says best friends, which is probably an indication if whether you've marked them as a best friend or not. in your friends list, so then they can of course help and edit your town. The next row lists Bellevue and oranges, the first one of course being the name of their island, but what's interesting is it actually tells you right off the bat what town fruit is native to their island, which is such a funny little detail to include on a passport for some reason. I don't really know why you would need this information on a passport, to be frank. Are you like gonna choose not to be friends with someone if they have pears on their passport? Anyways, the following row says Pocket Papa, in which like, it sounds weird and super random, but I think this ties into the title keywords that we saw previously in the direct, showed it off as a reward that you could redeem Nook Miles for. I think it's just like a fun, cute little title thing that you can earn or redeem with Nook Miles that you can put on your passport. The following row is of course his name, and then the final row is then the player's birthday. I am curious what you'll be able to customize of it. Will you be able to choose like your profile picture icon like you have in the past, maybe even change the background of your image? I'm sure there'll be other ways to customize your passport to give it a little personalized flair in game. So let's talk about some emotes. In the last video, we did talk about how villagers will be giving the player the emotes this time around, rather than from getting it from Dr. Shrunk. And in some new footage here, we actually see a villager doing such to the player, walking up to him, talking to the player, and explaining even what emotions are in the first place. So not only do you even unlock emotions from villagers, but you'll also be learning them from the villagers as well. In addition to this, we also see some footage showing off the full emotion UI, showing the entirety, all the emotions you can unlock, and you can assign to the radial menu. It appears to have 44 emotions in total, which is only 4 more than New Leaf. So basically, there's going to be 4 new emotions. It still does make me wonder what role Dr. Shrunk will be. Will maybe he still come in to give you only specific types of emotions that villagers can't? Or is he omitted entirely and you just kind of get them by random chance from the villagers in your town? So let's talk about some tools. First off, we actually see the slingshot in action. Now the biggest question is what was going to be in this present? Because what we saw in New Leaf, for example, it was exclusively balloon furniture items. And I mean, once you collected most of the balloon furniture items, it really didn't matter at this point because who wants balloon furniture? But to my relief, it was just a random lamp, just like a random, completely different lamp. So it looks like this time around that presents will be worth even shooting down for this point because it could be just a random assortment of stuff. From at least this video clip, what we do know is it won't be at least exclusively balloon furniture items, which is such a relief in my opinion. An interesting detail I didn't actually realize is we actually see some gameplay of tools breaking. This is something I didn't even realize was a thing, but apparently your tools have an expiration. After using it enough, whether it's your bug net, your shovel, your axe, the tool will break and you'll no longer have it. The series is no stranger to tools degrading over time. The best and only example in the series so far was always the axe. After enough uses, your axe would get chipped and eventually the head would fall off. It is interesting to see this mechanic expanded beyond the axe to the other tools as well. So essentially, it'll give you purpose to not only upgrading your tools to better versions so they have a longer lifespan, but then it actually gives you a reason to even continue to create new tools in the first place. So to wrap things up, I have a couple of just little miscellaneous things to go over. In some screenshots from the Japanese website again, we do see that mystery shop returning, kind of what we predicted to being an upgrade to Nook's Cranny of some form. And speaking of which, in some footage we do in fact see Tom Nook building and upgrading the shop in this big tarp covered building. Very similar to what we've seen in the series past when Nook's Cranny eventually does get its upgrade. A quick thing last to mention about this screenshot, we do see the villager actually using a purple fishing rod, which is cool to see yet another version of the tools. I am so curious to see how many different tools you can eventually get in this game. In another screenshot, we actually see a new wall type. I mean, we've seen plenty of new wall types throughout tons of different screenshots and videos and stuff. I just thought this one was pretty cool and worth pointing out because it's just very drastically different from the other ones we've seen so far. And in another screenshot, we actually see Serrano camping at the player's village. But the cool thing to notice is, I guess he just cracked open a cold Faygo because he seems to be enjoying himself an orange pop. But speaking of villagers, we actually see a player here go visit Renee in her home. And the first thing to notice, she's dusting things off, which is great to see, again, more life being included in these villagers. They aren't just empty vessels just staring at a wall all the days of their life. They're actually interacting with the environment around them. But what's interesting is when the player actually talks to Renee. She mentions that the Happy Home Academy is going to stop by tomorrow. Now, this is the first indication we've seen at all of the return of the HHA. So along with the HHA, there is a couple of characters associated alongside it. So could Lyle and potentially even his niece Lottie return here in New Horizons and host the HHA shop somewhere? Beyond that, in New Leaf, Digby, which is Isabel's brother, he helped with the HHA, showing off players' homes that you would acquire through Spot Pass. So with the knowledge that the HHA is returning, it does make me wonder what the roles will be for these handful of characters that are typically associated with the HHA. The last thing to wrap up is we actually see some gameplay of the Town Toon editor itself at the Town Hall. And there's really no surprises here. There's the same amount of notes from previous games. It's really all basically the same. But that is everything, the last remaining secrets and details that I found from the PAX East footage we've seen. We learned a lot about patterns, saw some transparent patterns in action. We also saw some new hair colors, learned more about the passport profile, saw some footage of unlocking emotions, learned more about tools. There's been a ton of information. But if I missed anything, definitely let me know in the comments below, or let me know what was your favorite part. What are you most excited for with all the new stuff we've learned over the past couple of days? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big awesome like, and if you haven't already, definitely subscribe for tons more on Animal Crossing New Horizons. I just wanted to again thank you all so much for the incredible support on all the Animal Crossing content so far, and I cannot wait to see what we can accomplish as a community when the game fully releases. I seriously cannot wait. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!